All right. It's Saturday morning, and to my knowledge, there was no Seattle Seahawks roster news yesterday. Actually, I got to take that back. There was one thing. We gave a futures contract to defensive end Jalen Gaines, but other than that, it was quiet. All the movement we got with the Seahawks concerned coaches, not players. So it looks like the Seahawks have made a commitment to several of their veteran players. So I don't think this is terribly surprising, especially when you got to the point where it was literally the day of. But it looks like the Seahawks are going to make a concerted effort to run it back where they can. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We did just win the Super Bowl. But let's take a look at the ramifications of yesterday. I made a video about this yesterday morning, but let's just go over the particulars real quick one more time. All right, guys, before we go any further into the video, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about my friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. Download the app to your phone. You can celebrate and chat about sports in real time with other users. You can get scores, news, and alerts with blazing fast speed. And you can play in daily fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports together. Download Sleeper today, and don't forget to use my promo code SBN for up to $100 match on your first deposit. Plus, they currently have a free $20 entry, no deposit required, just make an account. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper and have fun with sports this year. So basically, yesterday was a due date for contract options for a lot of Seahawks. And basically, if they are still on the team as of today, or at least not all of, but a good chunk of their base salary for 2026 becomes guaranteed. And the reason why that's interesting is because money that previously would have been saved by the team if they let the player go, they release them in the offseason, is now going to be guaranteed to the player regardless. So basically, if there was a plan to release these players, it probably would have been done before yesterday. So therefore, we can safely assume they're going to be here in 2026. Now, there's also the reciprocal of that, which is if the player is still on the team as of today, that probably means they're not going to retire. That's a little more complicated, though, and that's something we can talk about a little bit later. But the players who had partial base salary guarantees kick in yesterday are Sam Darnold, Cooper Kupp, Abe Lucas, DeMarcus Lawrence, Ernest Jones, Jarran Reed, and Michael Dixon. The amounts of the guarantees vesting varies from player to player, but basically it would be bad business to release any of these players now because if you had done it before today, you would have saved more money. So if the purpose of releasing a player is to save money, then there was no point in waiting until after today. Now, for most of these players, it was a no-brainer, right? Like Sam Darnold was not going to get released or anything. I can't imagine the scenario that would produce Sam Darnold not being a Seahawk next year, right? Abe Lucas, we just extended him. He wasn't going anywhere, and he had a really good season, so there's no beef here anyway, right? I don't think anybody has an issue with Abe Lucas right now. DeMarcus Lawrence, he is getting older, and I do admit that that is a consideration, but he played so well this last year. I think you're pretty happy rolling with him in 2026. And if he drops off a little bit, he's still going to be a good player, and he's not that expensive anyway. More on that in a second. Ernest Jones was not going to go anywhere either. We just extended him last year. He's been great for us, and he is one of the best players on this defense and one of the most important players on this defense. So nothing really to talk about there. And Michael Dixon, especially after that Super Bowl performance, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be a Seahawk for a very, very long time. This was really only interesting as it pertains to two players, which is Cooper Kupp and Jarran Reed. So if we go over to my 2026 Seahawks offseason spreadsheet, we can go ahead and start eliminating some of these options. Sam Darnold, we're going to cross through that. DeMarcus Lawrence. By the way, let me just highlight this real quick here. DeMarcus Lawrence's cap hit for 2026 is not even $12 million. The way he played last year, it could be double that, and I don't think it would be all that ridiculous. So we're chill. We don't want that guy to go anywhere. Ernest Jones, also going to go ahead and strike through that. And yeah, okay, so it's going to be Jarran Reed and Cooper Kupp. Now, the Cooper Kupp thing, this to me is the most interesting one. Now, Cooper Kupp, if you just take a look at his production on the football field, it's a little bit hard to justify the salary. I will admit that right now. $17.5 million is a lot. And it's hard. We're talking about a guy who is going to turn 33 this offseason. His body is probably older than 33 because of all the injuries he's had in his career. He's coming off a season where he was fine. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. He did anything bad. But he had less than 600 yards, even though he played 16 games. He actually played a lot of football last year relative to his previous 3 years, and he still didn't match the production of those partial years in LA. And there are good reasons for that, don't get me wrong. We run the ball way more than the Rams do. We don't have the prolific, explosive, high volume passing attack of the Rams. We were very much a run first team. I get all that. But you have to look at this and then think, okay, he's going to be 1 year older. And also, let's just be real here. And I'm sorry to have to say it, but I think most of you guys will agree with me when I say this. There's a pretty decent chance that he does not play 16 games next year. We were very fortunate that he only missed one game in 2025. He only missed one game after missing how many games with the Rams the previous 3 years? He missed half the season in 2022, missed about a third of the season in 2023, same in 2024. So, straight up, if we get 12 games out of Cooper Kupp in 2026, because it seems pretty clear the plan is now to bring him back, we should probably be pretty happy with that. We should feel like we got lucky to get 12 games out of a player like Cooper Kupp. And he's going to be good for us in those 12 games, or however many games he ends up giving us. But he's not going to give you any monster games either. I think his days of having 100-yard games are behind him, especially in this offense. So I will admit, it's hard to justify the cap hit of $17.5 million when you just look at what he does on a football field. Here's what I'm going to say. There is some stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, like he's a good run blocker. He's actually one of the better run blocking receivers in NFL history. So therefore, there is a little bit going on with Cooper Kupp that is valuable that you won't see on a page like this. There's also valuable stuff with him as a veteran leader in the locker room. We know the impact he's had on JSN's career. That's been obvious. And I think he also has an impact on the whole offense beyond that. Let's also keep in mind that we can afford it. We can. We have cap space. And I think this team, even in some cases where you could argue it's a little suboptimal, they want to run it back. Not with literally everybody, because that's impossible and in some cases would be actively bad, but where they can run it back, they want to run it back. And maybe it ends up coming back to bite them, but they feel like they want to defend their title. They want to go out there next year and prove that it wasn't a fluke. And they want as many pieces as they had from this year on the team in 2026. And maybe that's overriding some things they would otherwise do. Like if the Seahawks had not just won the Super Bowl, like let's say they had been a wild card team and won one playoff game, I don't know if we're bringing Cooper Kupp back, but it looks like we are. So would I say that it's obviously the correct move? No. Do I think that it's terrible? No. I think it's understandable. we're going to be paying him some of his money anyway. He gets 8 million dead, even if we let him go. So the question isn't so much, is he worth 17.5 million? The question is he worth 9.5 million? And one other thing to keep in mind here is if the Seahawks don't retain Shaheed this offseason, which is a real possibility, we kind of have to have somebody like a Cooper Kupp, because I do not want Torrey Horton, coming off a pretty serious injury in the second year of his career, getting launched into wide receiver 2 just by default. I want him to have to earn it, and I want him to have to work his way up. I don't want Torrey Horton to just get forced into that wide receiver 2 role, and Cooper Kupp does buy us a little bit of time there. Even though I like Torrey Horton, we got to play this the right way. So, yeah, Cooper Kupp, we're striking through that one. That is no longer a cut option. I mean, if we cut him now, there's no point. We save very little money now. I think if we released Cooper Kupp after today, it would be like a couple $1 million we save. Not worth it at all. And same for Jarran Reed. He got some of his money to guarantee today or yesterday. So he is no longer an option to cut either. Now, this one I'm more amenable to because it's not that much money. His cap hit for 2026 is not even 7.5 million. He's a valued leader in that locker room. The team clearly appreciates what he does. And I do think he kind of sort of is providing pseudo nose tackle like snaps, and he is effective against the run in a way that allows the rest of the team to do what they do in terms of sitting in nickel all the time. So I think he does have an impact that doesn't show up in the stats, because you look at the stats, you're going to see a guy who's about to be 34 and doesn't really put up numbers. But I think he's a little bit more than that. And I imagine that this team looks at that and they look at his veteran leadership and they say, yeah, that's worth 7.5 million. And he's not even at 7.5 million. What I will say is that it is kind of blocking Riley Mills from seeing a lot of playing time this year. You've got Leonard Williams, who has already said he's going to be back, Byron Murphy, and Jarran Reed. Riley Mills is going to have to work very hard to crack that rotation. Now, the good news is we've got insurance if somebody gets hurt, and you know somebody's going to get hurt, but it's going to be hard for Riley Mills to see the field when those three guys are healthy. And another thing going on here, and I'm talking about Kupp and Reed, but also DeMarcus Lawrence here. 2026 is probably the last dance. All those guys are going to be entering like 34, 35 years old. A lot of miles on them, especially a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence, especially a guy like Cooper Kupp, who has all those injuries on his ledger. And 2026 is probably the last dance. And next year, if they retire or if they get cut or whatever, it's almost no dead money. Like the Cooper Kupp dead money, if we release him or he retires next year, is going to be $4 million. That's nothing. On DeMarcus Lawrence, it's going to be just over 2 million. On Jarran Reed, it's going to be $1.5 million. Practically nothing. So if you wait and you just hope you can get one more really good year out of those guys, the reward is that it's almost painless to let them go in a year. Now, there is one other consideration here. It is still on the table for guys like Kupp or Reed to retire. And if they did, they would probably either give the money back or the team would kind of have to get into a little bit of a fight to get the money back. And that has happened before. There was a player on the Niners several years ago who retired after getting a contract from the Niners. He might have retired after his rookie season, actually, and the Niners didn't pay him his guarantees, and they ended up having to fight over it, but they did get to keep the money, I think. Now, that's a little bit of... That's something you don't really want to do because it makes your team look bad around the league, but it would be understandable for a guy like a Cooper Kupp or a Jarran Reed in that situation. The Rams didn't do it with Aaron Donald, but that's Aaron Donald. That's one of the greatest players in NFL history. If we did it to Cooper Kupp, who was only here 1 year, then that would be a little bit more understandable. But it doesn't seem like these guys want to retire, so I think that's a moot point, to be perfectly honest. I don't think we even really need to get into that right now. So looks like they're coming back, and it looks like we want them back. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. The options for cuts have gone way down, but still stuff to talk about.